Hello everybody. What do you think? I should do another Volkswagen project. I think I've already put this thing up on the internet. There's the motor that came out of it. And I don't even think that's a 1.8 liter block. It may be. 4-speed transmission. Fuel injected. Of course, here's the exhaust that came out of it. And this truck was given to me. I'm not sure what year this is. And I got a bunch of stuff I can put into it. Here's the interior. It needs regulators, both sides. Needs cleaned up really bad. Here's a tail light, which is okay. This thing had a lot of wiring problems until they was trying to get it to start. Got ground wires added on everywhere. All the wires are stripped. Everything's stripped and messed with going to the engine. I put a battery to it, turned the key on, and everything seems to be working. I got lights. A couple of the blinkers don't work, but I think that can be fixed. Because the hazards tried to work. Heater blower works. Dash lights work. Dome light works. There's a really cool sunroof. Really nice headliner. And just dirty. I'm probably going to take the pressure washer. I don't know. Let's pressure wash the crap out of that. Turn it up on its side and let it drain out. Poke some holes in the floor or something, let it drain out. And a piece of plexiglass for the back window here. But I got a bunch of crap that I took out of that blue Scirocco when I put that BR6 in there. So it'd be a good candidate for this because this doesn't need any of that ignition wiring. All this needs is a hot wire and a ground. You know, on the starter wire, which is easy to hook up. Convert it over to this fuel pump. This transmission needs a clutch in it, so I'll get it to 5-speed. I've got a transmission out there. It's got another 5-speed that has a limited slip dip in it, but 5/5 gears broke out of it from when I had it in my yellow Scirocco years ago. So who knows, maybe I'll get brave and try and split the case and take the diff out of that one and put it in here, and then I'll have a limited slip diff. dual Webers. And there's some of the exhaust that's going to go in here. The rear suspension will be different than the Scirocco. So I'm going to have to get on the internet and figure out what to do with that. See if I want to keep the drums. And shocks. What we're going to do for shocks back here. And then I think you get a plate which, you know, drops the thing, where you get your you know, how you lower it just a tad with the drop plate. So I got to research that. There's a race header that goes on that motor. Just one cylinder. Is as large as the whole exhaust on that motor that I'm taking out of here. And it's got bigger CVs, bigger axles. And this stuff here, these were brand new motor mounts. Stuff that I pulled out for that VR6 project. There's some, this is a pretty hardcore clutch I didn't really like. Grabbed real hard and kind of chattered. And another one that the life is pretty much gone out of, so I don't know, I'm probably just going to get a brand new clutch. So yeah, I got to figure out the suspension, the brakes. I'm going to get a new boot. For the steering rack. And drop it all in, make it a driver. I think. So yeah, here we go. That motor ran really good. Fires up and just purrs like a kitten. It's like a little sewing machine. Back on the Volkswagen. I got underneath the dash. Kind of cleaned up some of the wires. It really wasn't too bad. There was that little switch up there on the dash. That was for the horn. I thought it was a starter. Anyways, most everything's working. I'm not going to worry about the rest. I'm just going to get this thing running. Running, movable, whatever. So I can get it outside and then get my boy's blue Scirocco back in here. And I figured out a couple things. I've got a clutch ordered. New clutch coming. I've got the driver's side tie rod and a boot kit coming, so that'll be handled. I've discovered that I need to use the old axles, and what I got to do is change the flanges on the transmission. So I'm not into sourcing what I need. Where am I at? Here's the small flanges. I already got one of them off. It's a little clip, circlip that pushes on there. So those other axles, CVs, have a bigger spline right here, bigger hub, and you have to source a different knuckle off of like a 85 Scirocco, the second generation Scirocco. So that's parts are getting hard to find these days, and I don't got the time, and I don't want to mess around with it, so I'm going to put this stuff back on. I may be able to use the different struts I have in that. If not, I'm not going to worry about it. I don't want to spend any money on this thing in any time. I just want to get it in, get it done. You know, use it as kind of a driver and a thrasher. So, yep, there we go. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to finish getting this flange off right here, so we'll get that done. Got some progress done. Got the motor sitting in here, kind of wobbly. Got one bolt holding it in and sitting up on my jack. Pulled the clutch out of there. Clutch was bad. Center of it ended up coming loose. I don't know, there was a lot wrong. The spring holds that thing in there. Ended up getting off track a little bit somehow. And you know, like the springs in here, this part in here is just wasted. So I'm not sure what happened to that thing. I found out, you know, these flanges, they stay put. And what I needed to change was the CV itself. So the bigger CV joint fit on this axle with the smaller spline here. So I got these axles swapped over, ready to roll. And here's this linkage for the 5-speed. I'm going to have to put that in there. I got to get some bearings for these struts up here. And I just got done removing this fuel pump and fuel filter, the high pressure fuel pump for the fuel injection. And it went right in here. And here's the low pressure fuel pump. You know, suspended in rubber so it won't vibrate, make noise. Wired up, plumbed. So anyway, fuel system's ready to go. It's one of the big pieces of the puzzle right there. Put carburetors on one of these things. Hello everybody. I gotta show you something kind of funny. This motor didn't run. That's why this car was kind of given away, probably. Someone gave up on it. Here's the old motor. But like, look at this. Look at, they were trying to hook up grounds. Here's a ground hooked to a ground. And then all these other wires they added on there, and you know, they were trying a bunch of stuff. They had all the wires unwrapped. Tracing, you know, down the ignition problem. All the wires coming from the distributor. I mean, everything was opened up trying to get this thing to run. Now, I'm just kind of sorting through some of the stuff I need, some of the stuff I don't need. Here's the harness, the engine harness. Coming out of the firewall there. And this is for the injection. Anyways, right here I just took some tape off. Here's a broken ground wire. Kind of funny. I'm guessing that right there is why that thing wouldn't run. Anyway, kind of funny. I don't need any of that stuff. Half of it's going to get just chopped off. All I need is oil pressure, water coming from that harness. Don't need that. This is going to go to the starter. One of these wires, probably this one, is going to be the exciter for the starter. I'll have to check that out. This right here goes to the transmission for the reverse light. And that's going to be a different hookup for this thing. So no reverse light for this car. And what else do we got in here? All this is going to be there. You know, the water hooks up the same for the heater. Here and here. I got the fuel system hooked up. Looks kind of cheesy, but I don't care. And we're gonna have heat. This is gonna go over here, mount up like that. None of this gets hooked up. Anyway, there we go. Looking good. Moving right along. I got my clutch and the new strut bearings. I forgot to order some bolts. You're supposed to replace these flywheel bolts every time you change them. They're a stretch bolt. So anyway, looking good. Air fuel gauge, I'm going to put that in. Here's the ignition for that motor, the crank trigger sensor. This plugs into the coils, ground wire, another ground here, power, and anyways, it's pretty simple. This goes to ignition. And that's all there is to it. Haven't changed any of the settings on here, the advance, or it's got an RPM cut off. Anyway, yeah, we're good to go. Making progress on this thing. The car already had a brand new clutch cable in it. Keep calling it a car, it's a pickup truck. I'm gonna have to change this linkage. The shifting linkage is different for that 5-speed, so I'm glad I saved all that crap. Alrighty. So if you can see through the mess down here, what we're looking at is the shifting linkage, and it's all in. Pretty simple. Let's go under here. One bolt on the back of the steering rack, 3 bolts down here. That whole assembly comes loose. And the 5-speed stuff bolts right on the same holes that the 4-speed stuff was. So anyways, that's what's cool about Volkswagen. Interchange everything. And here we go inside. All that bolted right back in the same holes. Here's the old one. There's the old one. So there's another piece of the puzzle done. It's got pressure plate installed, flywheel, whatever you want to call it. And here's what I use to tie down the unit so it doesn't twist while I torque it down. These ones went to 44 foot-pounds and then 90 degrees. And then when you bolt the rest of the clutch on, those just get tightened up. They're like 10 foot-pounds, which is just snugged up. And we're ready to roll. I just wanted to show this little tool. Just keep this in my toolbox because it works for many different types of cars, and that's all you need to tie that down. And I don't remember what I show and what I don't show half the time, but I got some clamps to finish up the exhaust because I got the header bolted on there. And the exhaust is kind of sitting up there. It's not tightened down or anything. Wait before I get the engine in there in the final position. And tie rod. Got some CV grease. Put back in these CVs because they're pretty dry now. Oh yeah, fuel pump's in. You already know that. And finish, I'm going to get this tranny in to start hooking stuff up. This is Saturday morning, and this thing should be a runner. Here's the old linkage. Probably showed that too. But this thing should be a runner this weekend. Got the battery, got a battery for it. I think I got everything I need. I got these bearings for the struts. Got new ones because the other ones are just garbage. So yep, here we go. Well, you want to watch me put this transmission in here? This may not be pretty. Oh, and my back hurts. Oh. So yeah. This thing don't weigh too much, but I gotta do all this holding and moving and balancing stuff, and it's always kind of interesting. When you're by yourself. Balanced a little bit different. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be one of them deals. stay there. Now this thing has to twist a certain way, so the CV joint over here clears that flange, the back plate for the transmission. So let's see here. There we go, right there. That's where you want it. Now it's got to go this way, just a touch. This bolt goes right there. And it's getting closer. Once I get it kind of where I want it, then I'll pick it up and lift it up in there. So it's not just hanging on the shaft, the transmission shaft that goes inside that clutch. And I think I'm getting pretty dang close right there. Let's see what happens. Actually, I gotta go down. Area. I'm going to get down here. Now let's check the gap. Make sure the gap is kind of even all the way around. And maybe needs to go down just a bit more. Yeah, just a touch. Right there, okay. Now, alright, we're in the right area. Losing my jack. Not what I wanted to happen. Yeah, see. This thing out of gear. Alright. Gosh, that's close. pretty much standard procedure. Looking good, should go in. Come on. Where are we at? Alright, you got the mount tightened up. I'll get this ground strap hooked up while it's in a good spot. And let's see how tight that is. Oops. What the hell? It's not very tight because the 3/8 instead of 10. That's good. So that mount's ready to go. When I jack that up, it'll slide up in there. And because it is time, jack that up a little. And I'm actually going to put my jack in a different spot down there. It's got extra weight on it. Put it in a different spot here. So let's let this down. Yep. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see, back it off, I think. So this one's got rubber snubbers on each end, so yeah, I don't need these little inserts, so we're good to go. Okay, back we go. I don't know what that was. Oh, wait a minute, I don't like that. Yeah, great. So this has to go different location for my fuel, and it's gonna go yeah, way over here. Okay, so let's put a bend in this fuel. Oh, without kinking it. Damn it, that was nice. I don't know if that's going to be a good spot. I may have to just cut that damn thing. That's not what I wanted to do, but I kind of kinked it a bit there, which wasn't... Yeah. Where does that want to be? Yeah, that ain't no good. That needs to go. Clamp something. Okay. As long as we're not in the way, I'll be okay there. I don't care about that. Touching right there, so to speak. Yeah. I'll tie stuff down so it doesn't chafe on stuff. But I think that's going to be good. As long as it doesn't interfere with my shifting. Oh, there we go. That was bound up down there. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay. Cool. Yep. That will work. Alright. Gotta go down, I think. Catch that bolt. Or maybe up. Where do I want to go? There we go. Got it. Nope. Okay, good. Now that's definitely in the right spot. Snugged up, so now I get to jack this up and put this mount in over here. I've got a lot of stuff hooked up. I cleaned up this loom a little bit. Not sure what this wire is yet. Oil, water. Not even sure if that's where this goes. For the temperature sensor. A couple of these things I'm not even sure, so we'll find out as we go. And shifting linkage, fuel, clutch, and ground wire, speedo. The mounts are hooked up. I stuck a ground up here. I got the ground down there. Next thing, I'll mount this up here, right in that area. And then we'll be ready to do the radiator. Pull the wiring through for the ignition. Crank. Trigger sensor. This thing will pull through. This will pull through, plug into the coil. This will drop down to the O2 sensor. So I'll get that stuff done next, and I'll finish up the exhaust underneath. And we're getting ready to fire it up. It's almost ready. Getting closer and closer. Been wiring up the ignition here. Got the wires ran through the firewall to the coil packs. I've got the wire snaked around over here for the crank trigger sensor. And I've kind of just been hooking up grounds and power right now. Kind of curious if I've got fuel. Got no fuel running out of there. I have to check that out. Because the key is on right now. So I'll have to check that part out. There's a couple loose ends. Gotta put a 10 amp fuse in here. Finish screwing that down. Radiator. Gotta make sure this wire is my starter wire. And I've got this thing. Got the wires up over the steering column. And then I'm going to tie all these up, and then this will be mounted right up in here. That all works. And maybe I didn't have my key on. Shit. Let's try that again, just for the hell of it. Fuel. Nothing. Alright. Okay, cool. Keep that handled. Alrighty, Sunday morning. What I'm trying to do now is get fuel. Turn the key on, the pump don't work. So I've been tracing wires. And right over here is where the fuel pump relay goes. Got it right here in my hand. And one of these is ground, this little one. And then you get constant power, switch power. And then this one down on the bottom sends the power to the fuel pump. This other one, they say is on the internet, coil. So I'm thinking that this one needs to be hot, like a signal from the coil that it's working. That way the fuel pump turns on if the car is running. I don't know, but that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to jumper that over, turn that one hot, and see if that gets this relay to turn on and gives me fuel, because when I jumper that wire over, when I give that one power, the fuel pump works. So I know it's just a matter of getting this thing to switch proper. And the reason I think that coil wire is not hot, because I cut it off. All this stuff's been cut off, so it doesn't know it's getting a signal from the coil, because the coil's gone. So anyway, that's what I'm going to work on next. See what we come up with. See, here's what I get if I give this power. Fuel. And let's see here. Must be this side. Yeah, no power over here. I got power up there, power over there. The one on the top is constant power. This one should turn off with the key, which it does. And then switch power. Turns that back on again. This one over here that I'm touching is the one that comes from the coil. This one's ground up here. So when I flip this around, it's this one, the red one, that needs to be powered up, I believe. It should give me fuel. So let's try it. Let's see, where's my relay? Let's plug this thing in. And if I steal power, where's my jumper? From the top, red one. There. And I jump it over to this one. Nope. Nothing. Well, that's a bummer. Power there. No go, I guess. Dang it. Sure that's touching. Well, okay. No go on that one. And I'll check and make sure it isn't the relay. I'm going to put a different relay in there. And put my suspension in. Got some new bearings. See how that goes. And bust that loose. Watch out. See how that goes? Don't try that at home. I don't have a clamp handy for them springs, so just let it eat. Get out of the way. These ones here are lowering springs, so I can just squish it down by hand. It'd be a lot easier putting them on than it was taking them off. So there's my exhaust, and that goes in a Rabbit Scirocco, and it all fits. it all fits until you get right here. That little hump right there is where the axle is on our Scirocco. So you can see how much longer the wheelbase is. So this is the end of the car, typically. Anyways, I tucked it up in here, see if that muffler will ride right there. I had to make a new mount. Welded that little bracket on there. Should be good. Try it out. Next thing is to get the O2 sensor, which does nothing but provide a gauge. So I'll get that hooked up. Alrighty. Put the radiator in. I left this pipe in because it was a little bit different over here and I didn't want to mess around. Leave it alone. This hose here is different, so I'll go get another hose. I got to get some antifreeze, so we'll wait on that. And just sitting here thinking. Everything else is pretty much done, I think. So I'm going to finish up that relay issue. I went to find a relay, and the people, they can't even source a relay for me down at the auto parts store. So I'm gonna rig it up. I don't know what I'm missing, you know, to give that thing a signal, or if that's bad, but I know the wiring's good. So I'm gonna put a regular relay in there and just trigger it with the key. So when I turn the key on, the pump comes on. And I'll be kind of weird. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the hell's going on, but all I'm going to do is do like a regular relay, just like this one down here. You've got a ground and then a positive trigger, and I'll probably just cut this black one and cut this red one and make those do the same thing. Keep this one and this one the same, and then I'll plug a regular relay in there and it'll work. So here we go. Okay, now this wire here was ground to this one, so I got that stripped, and this was that coil wire. So between these two, it's supposed to end up being some kind of a trigger with the switched ignition to power this one down here. On the regular relay, you got a switched power, and anyway, so I'm going to mimic that. I'm going to plug in this regular one here. Oh, where does this go? There we go. And so if I turn the key on, now if I touch these two together, there we go. So, and that's ground is what I'm connecting here, because that other side was my switched, it was already switched power, switched 12 volt. So there we go, done. Okay, so this thing should run now. I'm going to tuck all this up, back up in here. That clutch feels weird. Hopefully it's not broken. Brand new. Let's fire this thing up. Come on, fire up. No fuel. No fuel up there. Something. Should be. Should be golden. What's going on? Don't really smell fuel yet. Oh damn, hope that clutch is okay. Come on. I have to check it out and see what's up. I think it would have been fired by now. So I figured out what was wrong. My switch power, I had this thing hooked up to. It's one of those wires is on a circuit that goes dead when you're cranking the battery. You know, like your lights will go off when you crank the battery, so it doesn't draw the juice. So some of the circuits stay live while you're cranking, and that needs a live circuit. So I already bumped it over and it fired right up instantly, or tried to. So we're getting spark and we're getting fuel. So now I'm going to put this thing back in there. And we'll fire it up. Alrighty, got the plug in there. Got it wrapped. I got problems with my clutch, man. It ticks me off. Huh. Damn it. Oh. Damn. For some reason that clutch is no good. Not disengaging, so frick. You know what that means? Gotta pull it back out. Fun. Oh boy, so it took about a half hour, 45 minutes to get that out of there. And here it is. Now, good news is, more good news, bad news stuff. I think the clutch is fine, and I did put it in correctly. Bad news, here's the problem right here, is this this plunger pops out. Something crunchy, something bad going on in there. You hear that? Listen. Crunchiness. Let's see if I can hold this camera. So the throw-out bearing, so to speak, is on this end of this shaft. And I've never been in there before, but I can see this is all chewed up right there. This metal on this end has been chewed up. And put that in there. It's crunchy. And when I pull this up, there's sometimes, okay, see, like that's all of that right there. That's all the further that thing's pushing out. I think it's supposed to come out a lot more than that. Yeah, this binding right there, it's got quite a bind. Something's bad in there. So, now plan B. I got another 5-speed in my other garage that has a limited slip quaif differential in it, but I blew out the 5th gear from that thing. That yellow car is responsible for chewing up like 3 of these transmissions, each one a different gear. So it may be time to see if I can take the 5th gear out of this one and put it in the 5th gear of the other one. It's just a matter of if I know how to tear it apart. I'm not sure how tricky it is, but I may be learning.